Welcome to the information sessions on the Rural-Urban Interface Firefighting Strategies. I am Senior Firefighter Neil McIntosh and I am part of the FISA Career Training Team at Forestfield. The concept and strategies of Rural-Urban Interface Firefighting have been formally adopted by fire services in the eastern states. We recognise and thank the New South Wales and Queensland Fire Services for the valuable assistance in this DVD. Learning materials will be available to all Western Australian firefighters in the near future. Rural-Urban Interface Firefighting, or RUI, is where bushland meets man-made infrastructure, usually homes and industry. Examples of this type of firefighting are frequent in Western Australia. The more topical examples include Margaret River, Roleystone, Kelmscott, Red Hill and Toodyay. Whilst the protection of structures adjacent to bushland is not new to firefighters, the specific tactical deployment of resources within the RUI context is. It is important that the tactics we apply in the RUI are consistent across all fire services, particularly when bushfires strike on days where the fire danger index exceeds 50. The RUI structural defence strategy needs to be applied by operational commanders and responding fire crews where offensive fire suppression strategies are no longer effective under the prevailing conditions. These procedures, together with commonly adopted terminologies, have now become part of our operational doctrine. In the wake of devastating bushfires across Australia, fire agencies around the country are putting a new emphasis on dealing with fires at the urban interface. As our population grows, increasing the urban interface, the potential for devastating bushfires impacting on lives, property and the environment is also increasing. In this video, we will be looking at the defensive suppression strategies in the interface, risks and other critical elements for safety in interface firefighting, how we assess what can be saved and what cannot, the process of working on the fireground in the interface. What is the interface? The interface refers to the bushland-urban interface where the built environment meets the bush. There are typically 4 types of interface. The classic interface. Structures are very close to bushland or surrounded by it. They can be small or large developments, and they may only have one road in or out of the area, making access, evacuation problematic. Water supplies may be easily overrun. A closed or excluded interface. In an isolated pocket of bushland within a suburban area. Fires in these areas can be easy to control since fuel is finite, but corridors can exist providing a potential path for fire spread. Mixed interface. By mixed interface we mean isolated structures surrounded by larger areas of vegetation. Water supplies may be minimal and access is more difficult. This location of structures increases demands on firefighting resources. A multiple ignition zone is comprised of large developments not close to vegetation but which have the potential of being impacted by embers remote from the fire front.
6AR to Armidale First, over.
Armidale First receiving, over.
Armidale First, turn out to a bushfire which is encroaching on property within the rural-urban interface on Rayburn Road, Roleystone, over.
6AR from Armidale First, returning out to a bushfire. Property under threat.
Deciding which mode of attack to use will partly depend on the answers to these questions. Where is the fire? What is burning? What is fire intensity? Where is the fire going? How defendable are threatened structures? How many and what type of resources do you have? Offensive strategies. Direct, parallel, and indirect. An offensive suppression strategy means attacking fire in bushland using firefighting techniques such as direct attack, which can work well in low-intensity fires with good access, parallel attack for medium-intensity fires, and indirect attack, which is used on high-intensity fires. Defensive strategies. Defensive strategies are normally used in interface firefighting, and they include line defence. A line defence is used when conditions would normally allow for an offensive attack, but you don't have enough resources to apply this technique. It involves stopping the fire from coming close to structures using hose lines or tactical backburning that should only be done as a last resort. Ember defence. An ember defence is used when the approaching fire front is too intense to be suppressed by offensive means and there is significant ember attack. It involves extinguishing small fires as and when they occur. When firefighting, you should operate from safe positions behind suitable shielding and pull back to a safer refuge if you need to. Backstop defence. Backstop defence is used when there is no safe, defendable space around buildings, or if the fire is too extreme to defend structures until the fire front has passed. When firefighting, you should withdraw a short distance to a safe refuge. After the fire front has passed, you should move forward to put out any spot fires or structures on fire. Before we look at fire control tactics, size up, and structural triage, let's consider some of the safety issues and risks. Safety is paramount at every stage of firefighting, from house preparation outside the bushfire season to decisions on whether to evacuate in extreme fire conditions. Public panic and poor communications are common risks in the interface. Here is some more. Poor roads, narrow bridges, sharp turns and distressed locals can all be hazards to consider even when you are on the way to a fire. Residents should follow fire danger ratings for their area and implement their bushfire survival plan accordingly. Residents who choose to leave should do so well before a bushfire threatens and/or travelling by road becomes dangerous. Residents should prepare their homes as well as possible. They should stay inside during the time it takes for the fire front to pass and then emerge to deal with spot fires. Many deaths occur when people flee a fire by foot or car too late. Poorly timed evacuations can congest roads, obstruct emergency services vehicles, and increase the danger for everyone. Residents that refuse to evacuate can cause safety problems for themselves and for emergency services. In a regional interface incident, several emergency services may be involved. Communication is vital, especially when agencies use different techniques. Make sure you are familiar with the systems of communication being used. Essential infrastructure. In the interface, loss of electricity or water supply can pose significant safety issues. Fallen electrical wires must be identified and rendered safe by the electrical authority. The reticulated water supply often fails because of the increased demand for firefighting. Use static water supplies whenever possible. If you are deployed to an area you are unfamiliar with in strike team deployments, your risk increases. Make yourself familiar with the incident action plan before being deployed. Reconnaissance of your sector is a priority. If this is your local area, keep crews informed of your own plans, especially as the fire season approaches. Independent action. It is vital that arriving crews report to the IC or ICV for tasking rather than independent action, which is not acceptable. This ensures a coordinated and safety-conscious response. Situational awareness. In a large interface fire, competing priorities, changing conditions, and other factors can lead to a lack of situational awareness and compromise safety. Ensure LACES is implemented at all times. Heat stress. Firefighters' health and safety is the highest priority. Monitor for fatigue in all of your team. Size up. When you get to the fire, the first arriving officer will do a size up. You might be familiar with the size up in other fires, but there are specific differences to consider with the fire approaching in the interface. Crew safety. Identify crew evacuation routes and safety zones in the area. Fire behaviour. What's the fire doing? How fast is it travelling? How big is it? How intense is it? Topography. What is the topography of the area? What fuels are burning? Are there any structural or existing barriers? Spotting. Is the fire spotting? How far is it spotting? What is the fire danger rating? What are the current weather conditions? What is predicted? Potential. What is the fire's potential? Where will it be in half an hour? An hour? And 2 hours? Threats. Are lives threatened? Is the asset defendable? What hazards need to be dealt with? Resources. Have enough resources been dispatched? How far away are they? Communications. The first arriving officer must develop an incident action plan on arrival. It may be documented or mental, but on arrival others need to know what this plan is before they move to their allotted tasks. When able, the plan must be communicated to a higher authority, and this, in the Perth Metro for example, would be the Communications Centre. Structural triage. Are the structures nearby defendable? What can be saved? Interface firefighting is mainly focused on defending threatened structures, and you can't always save every structure. Residents who have implemented their bushfire survival plan may have prepared their homes to reduce the damage of bushfire exposure. When defending property, we must make quick, accurate assessment of resources required to perform the task. Pre-incident plans can assist in determining strategies, resource requirements, and potential risks. Defendable structures. Defendable structures can be defended with little or no help and require few resources to protect them. Active intervention. Some structures will require moderate resources and need active protection. Undefendable structures. Undefendable structures are difficult to save without committing numerous resources. The toughest call may be the decision that the structure is undefendable. You will be considering factors like whether there is enough defendable space, whether you have enough resources to defend the area, how extreme is fire behaving, what fuel is adjacent to the building, whether the building is susceptible to heavy attack. Making these assessments will also help you to decide how to defend a structure that is defendable. How surroundings and setbacks make a big difference to defendability. Always consider your crew's safety and maintain mobility. Structure protection. Once you have done your size up and briefed the crews, it's time to deploy your resources. Always consider fire behaviour predictions before making any deployments. Remain mobile. One of the first considerations of firefighting in the interface under extreme conditions is to retain mobility. This means not automatically hooking up to the hydrant system. Mains pressure might be low, and if the fire front moves quickly, you might need to evacuate. Use the appliance pump and water supply wherever possible. Replenish appliances with water whenever available to ensure that adequate supplies are maintained. Light tankers to draft water and relay from static supplies, e.g. pools, tanks and dams. Reverse in. Reverse the appliance into driveways to enable a quick exit. You should evaluate safety zones, the best escape routes, and the most appropriate method of communication between crews up the chain of command. Ensure LACES is implemented at all times. Preparing the home. While waiting for the impact of fire, make structures as defendable as possible. A common tactical mistake is to stand around waiting for fire to impact. Long before the impact of fire, evaporative air conditioners must be turned off. Remove combustible material, which might be wood, plastic furniture, shade or sailcloths, bins, and welcome mats away from the building. Remember that houses in the interface usually burn down as a result of ember attack. Embers will reach structures well ahead of the fire front. It's a good idea to patrol streets or locations ahead of the main fire front to check for spot fires. If you have the competencies for internal structure firefighting, remember you need to have Level 2 PPC. Hose tactics. Usually you'll deploy 2 lines of 2 lengths of 40mm lay-flat hose around both sides to the back of the structure. Rather than waste water on cooling or pre-wetting structures, only use the hose to extinguish spot fires. Crews should practice this drill leading up to the bushfire season. A direct attack on a fire front requires a plentiful supply of water. You can only be certain of water on the appliance and static water. Always keep enough water for emergencies and avoid using hose reels as these reduce mobility because they can't be easily made up. Stay observant. The situation can change quickly. Heat stress, visibility, changing resources and weather will all have an effect on fireground tactics. The RUI strategic approach is embedded in Bushfire Doctrine 3.5. This is available on the FISA Internet, or the individual documents are attached to this DVD in PDF format. The supporting SOPs that deal with the RUI are detailed in the following slides and should be discussed within your crews. Thank you for your attention. The supporting SOPs that deal with RUI are SOP 3.5.6 Structural Triage, SOP 3.5.7 the employment of strike teams at the RUI, SOP 3.5.8 immediate street assessments at the RUI, SOP 3.5.9 structural defence at the RUI. SOP 3.5.6 Structural Triage. This PowerPoint lists the headings from the Doctrine document that includes Structural Triage Introduction, Assessing Structural Defendability, criteria that defines construction, defendable space, vehicular access, water supplies, personnel resources, and structural triage marking system. Pause and discuss. SOP 3.5.7 The employment of strike teams at the RUI. The employment of strike teams at the RUI introduction. Strike team planning that defines minimum capability, objective, task capability, information, boundaries, communication, logistics, and exit strategy. Duties of the strike team leader and crew leader are command, planning, tasking, report, and safety. Deploying the strike team includes immediate street assessment, tasking unit, task to capacity, maintain a reserve, and water supplies. Pause and discuss. SOP 3.5.8 Immediate street assessments at the RUI. Introduction of immediate street assessments at the RUI. Structural survival rating definitions: savable, marginal, and lost. Assessment variables and notes: local wind conditions, fire danger ratings, involvement of residents. Assessing structural survivability includes no fire involvement, external roof involvement, internal involvement, fully involved. Abandoning defensive operations includes fire behaviour, water supply, escape route, structural involvement. Pause and discuss. SOP 3.5.9 Structural Defence at the RUI. Structural Defence Introduction. Planning principles include appliance positioning, mutually supporting defensive posture, suppression of approach fuels, protected withdrawal route, mop up and move on. Structural defence drill, firefighting and structural defence, immediate street assessment and tasking. Preparation and layout includes position the appliance, hose layout, prepare the defendable space, prepare the structure. Firefighting, the fire front, includes dealing with spot fires, use of water, fighting the fire. Mop up, redeployment, emergency withdrawal.